April 6, 1941, the Axis army swarmed Yugoslavia from all sides. The Germans had initiated the aptly named Operation Punishment against Yugoslavia for its defection from the Tripartite Agreement. On March 25, 1941, Yugoslavia had signed the agreement with the Axis powers at the urging of Hitler. 2 days later, however, the unpopular alliance led to a coup. The new government reneged on the agreement. In a matter of days, the Wehrmacht, with the help of the Luftwaffe, had overtaken the capital of Belgrade. The invasion of Yugoslavia had ended before it even began. On April 17th, the Yugoslav army surrendered. While the Nazis had soundly defeated the Yugoslav army, they did not foresee the strength of the coming resistance. The man that would lead those communist partisans against the Nazis was named Josip Broz, but he was more commonly known as Tito. Once the Nazis had defeated King Peter II in 1941, the communists within Yugoslavia began to gather their forces. However, since the Treaty of Non-Aggression was still in place, Moscow refrained from defending their comrades in Belgrade. Operation Barbarossa, the Nazi invasion of the Soviet Union, would not begin for another 2 months. On June 22, 1941, the same day that Germany began its assault on Russia, the first partisan detachments were formed in Yugoslavia. Previously, Tito had informed Grigory Dimitrov, the General Secretary of the Comintern, that he was planning an insurgency against the Nazis. Dimitrov wrote back, "The time has come when communists should arouse the people to open struggle against the occupier." In the following years, Tito managed to fight the Nazis without much help from the Allies. At the same time, they were supporting the royalist Chechniks, led by Draža Miholović. But as fighting continued, the Chechniks grew more interested in fighting the communists than they were the Nazis. Indeed, they later became fascist collaborators. Yet the Allies did not officially switch their support to the communist partisans until 1943, after the Tehran Conference. Before then, Tito and his partisans had already liberated nearly half of Yugoslavia, set up the first free government in Hitler's Europe, and built a first-class fighting army of over 200,000 partisans, all without the help of the Allies. By the fall of 1944, in a loosely coordinated effort by the partisans in the Soviet Union, Tito had liberated Belgrade. Famously, Tito had said, "We begin in Belgrade and we will finish in Belgrade." By the end of October 1944, Belgrade was free and Marshal Tito was officially appointed the prime minister of a joint government in Yugoslavia. After 1945, Yugoslavia was now uniquely positioned to rebuff both Western meddling and Soviet influence, because Tito had largely done without either of their help during the war. Tito was now a star on the rise. Despite the fact that Tito had prevailed without much assistance from Stalin, as a good communist he recognized the Soviet Union as a pivotal ally. During the war, Yugoslavia and the Soviet Union signed a 20-year treaty of friendship. Yet from the start, the alliance between Stalin and Tito was fraught with suspicion and mistrust. Infamously, Stalin had said he could wiggle his little finger, and that would be the end of Tito. During the liberation of Belgrade, however, Tito was not so easily thwarted. Before the operation began, Tito had flown to Moscow to meet with Stalin. Stalin wanted Yugoslavia to take back King Peter after the war. With Molotov, Milenkov, and Beria watching, Tito defied Stalin and refused to take back the monarch. Fuming, Stalin curtly replied to Tito's indignation, "Take him back temporarily, and then you can slip a knife in his back at a suitable moment." No one knew if he was referring to King Peter or Tito himself. After the war, with Tito firmly in control in Yugoslavia, he faced off with Stalin again. This time it was over Tito's support of the communist insurrection in Greece in December of 1945. Stalin told Tito to keep himself and his Communist Party focused on domestic issues and to avoid any interference in foreign affairs. Stalin was worried that Yugoslavia was positioning itself as an alternative model for communists in the Balkans. Continued struggle for influence over communism in the East all came to a head in 1948. On June 28th, at the Second Cominform Conference, Yugoslavia was officially expelled from the organization for uncommunist deviations. otherwise known as not capitulating to Stalin's whims. The resolution against Yugoslavia read, "The leadership of the Communist Party of Yugoslavia has pursued an incorrect line on the main questions of home and foreign policy. We denounce this anti-Soviet attitude of the leaders of the Communist Party in Yugoslavia as only appropriate to nationalists." If that wasn't damning enough, the resolution went on to accuse them of taking the path of a populist kulak party and suffering from boundless ambition, arrogance, and conceit. With the government of Yugoslavia completely discredited by the Soviet Union, the rivalry between Stalin and Tito was now officially on. The Yugoslavian response came the very next day. The Communist Party in Yugoslavia cannot but reject with deep indignation the assertion that the leading ranks in the party are deviating to the course of a kulak party. Could the members of the party, who dauntlessly faced death in thousands of battles, tolerate in a party a state of affairs unworthy of both men and communists? By the above-mentioned unjust charges, the greatest historical injustice has been done to our party. From this point forward, Tito was done with Stalin. Nevertheless, this did not stop Stalin in the common form from continuing its attacks on Yugoslavia. For the rest of Stalin's life, Yugoslavia would continue to be a thorn in his side. Only after his death in 1954 did the Soviet Union and Yugoslavia begin to heal old wounds.
Druže Tito, mi ti se kunemo. Druže Tito, mi ti se kunemo.